I decided that I was going to send copies out to my peers, like other technical leaders. And I had these conversations with them about the content in the book, just phone calls and such. And my wife overhears it and she goes, you should record those and you should like put them as a podcast. I was like, all right, well, what's a podcast? My wife had been telling me, she's like, hey, you should go take like a comedy class, see if you're interested in that. And it went super well. I was at a fork in the road moment. New baby coming, losing mom, this other stuff happening. I was like, I'm going to go the safe route. And things got great financially and all of that. And then I just started getting like real depressed. I was talking with my wife and she's like, hey, you should go take the path you didn't take. There's always some nervousness or excitement, the feeling of I'm going to speak in front of 1,000 people or 3,000, whatever it is. I think all that experience from the podcast has really helped as far as my nervousness going on stage. That being said, I mean, it's that same feeling still happens before you go on, for me at least still.
Welcome to the Explore Nash podcast. We are talking about AI. We're talking about fatherhood. We're talking about beards, comedy, living in Tennessee today. And joining me today is Joel Beasley. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, I got it right. Great. You have a podcast called Modern CTO. And I've listened to a couple episodes just to get an understanding of what you're doing. We'll talk about that. But before we get into anything, you have an immaculate beard. And let's talk about the history of your beard. I call it a beardiversary. I've been growing my beard since 2013 or 2014, and it has not been fully shaved off my face. And on November 1st every year, I have my beardiversary, and I go to like a spa and I get like a treat myself type situation. It's a whole thing.
That's a whole other level.
It's a whole thing.
I didn't know this was possible. Yeah.
The worst experience I had with my beardiversary is I went to a barbershop that's known around the nation, and they have a lot of locations here. And what's funny is we're actually recording here at the studio, and my barber's outside right now in a trailer, that sketchy looking trailer that's outside.
I heard that
that's my barber now. So we can go get a haircut after this if you want. But the woman that was cutting my hair, she wasn't technically a barber. She was a stylist, and she went up instead of down on my beard. Destroyed my beard. Complained, got a free haircut on my beardiversary, and I said, yeah, you guys need to take care of me because this is my entire brand and face that I've had for a long time. So tell me about the history of your beard.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're getting into, is your history of beards.
Yeah, I started right in the pandemic time.
Okay.
Because we had an in-person office where we did the show, but then when the pandemic happened, everybody went remote. And so I was in that studio by myself, and I was like, you know what? I could get through the awkward beard stage because there's really no one here to see it. And so I decided to start growing the beard. And when I first started, my wife loved it, right? She was very supportive. The longer it got, the more excited she got, and that made me feel great until I realized covering up my face made me more attractive. So
all the ladies love you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic because my wife, before we got married, my wife said, I said, I'm never shaving my beard for anybody because this is my thing. And she's like, you don't have to shave your beard. And then we've talked about, we've been married for almost 7 years now. And she's like, are you ever going to shave? I'm like, no, you said that I don't have to. So I'm holding on to that commitment. So you had a podcast studio in Clarksville.
That was in Florida at the time.
Florida, okay.
Yeah, now it's in Clarksville.
When did you move to Tennessee?
So during the pandemic, when we did go remote, I realized, why am I paying for this big office, where we had all these producers and everything.
And this was for the
podcast,
the Modern CTO.
Yeah.
Okay. How long has the show been in existence?
About 10 years, 1,000 episodes.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah.
Man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we said, hey, since it's just me, we figured out how to do it remotely, and then as we grew during the pandemic too. So we expanded and we just hired talent from wherever they were. And so, we were like, why? We're not tied here anymore. We were both living in the town we were born and raised in for over 30 years. And we had 2 little kids, and we said, hey, here's an idea. Let's go see if we want to move somewhere else. So we flew out to Texas, and we realized that whole experience of like the car seats, the rentals, the Airbnbs, all of that, it was just a lot to explore one area for a week. So we said, this isn't cost conscious here. I was like, the best thing we should do if we want to explore a bunch of different areas is we should buy an RV and then travel around the country. And so that's exactly what we did. We took a year-long camping trip around the country.
How was that travel experience with how old were your kids at that time?
Like 2 and 4.
Okay. How was that travel experience with having such young children?
It was great. Yeah.
And in what ways was it great?
Well,
and what was difficult about that?
Yeah, well, the first way it was great is before they were in this like daycare type situation, educational daycare situation, and so getting to spend time with them like without that break was interesting because it's a little more difficult because you have young kids, but the bond you form is so much greater. And so rather than shipping them off for 8 hours a day to form a bond with someone else, they're forming that bond with you. Mm-hmm. And so from that perspective, it was really, really great. But you're around small kids all the time. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. Yeah.
What was during that trip, what was your favorite moment with them? And then where was your favorite place that you discovered throughout America?
Yeah, I'd say one of my favorite moments of that trip is at the time I owned this business called Elevate as well with my business partner Etienne. And we had owned and started this company without ever physically meeting each other because it was in the pandemic.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so then after about 2 years of that, we ended up going to the Grand Tetons. And he has an RV too. And so we met up and our families got to get together and we grilled over an open fire and it was just a good experience. That's one of my favorite moments from the trip. And the other favorite moment would be when we discovered that there's these little packets you can buy that change the color of the campfire.
Oh yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah,
those
you
are really
toss
cool.
them in the campfire.
Yeah.
And it's like Hogwarts.
Yeah, you're like Harry Potter. You're like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so you started a company and you never met your business partner.
Not in person,
but over on Zoom. Okay.
Yeah, we knew each other through the space. So he owned
what type of company was it?
So he owned a company called 7 CTOs, and that was like high level executives that get in these small groups of 7 and talk about things and they get together. And so that was really successful. And he had been doing that for a while in the space. So I had seen him around and he had seen me around and we had conversations and such. And we're like, hey, let's create a group that I can advertise on my podcast. And so we built that up and ran it for 2 years. And then he assumed that group back into 7 CTOs because I wasn't interested in continuing to run the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what made you get into the podcasting world with the particular topic of CTOs?
Yeah. So my background at the time I started the show as around 17 years in software development. So I had built and sold 3 software companies. And from that, what happened was people would call me and they would say, hey, I'm experiencing this. Will you talk to this company or this company's growing? We're going to invest in them. Will you talk with them about going from 0 engineers to 30 software engineers, And so I was having these conversations over and over. And then I was wanting to write this book and I'd been putting it off. It'd been like 2 years putting it off, wanted to write this book about growing these engineering teams. And then my mom got sick, went to the hospital. My brother's a doctor. And so she went to the hospital and then they found out she had cancer and she died 6 weeks later.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. And so I was in the room holding her hand like as she passed away. And then something just hit me and I was like, life is finite. This is short. Mm-hmm. Like this is gonna end. And so I was like, I'm going to go write the book. So that month I, started writing the book. It took me 3-6 months to complete it. Before I published it, I decided that I was going to send copies out to my peers, like other technical leaders, and be like, hey, what do you think? Is this going to get me ripped apart on Amazon? Am I going to get, or is it good? And they were like, it's good. And I had these conversations with them about the content and the book, just phone calls and such. And my wife overhears it and she goes, hey, you should record those. You're having a lot of fun. I've never seen you have this much fun before. You should record those and you should like put them as a podcast. I was like, well, all right, well, what's a podcast? And so I started looking into that and I said, okay, cool. So I asked my buddy Derek, my best friend at the time. And I said, hey, dude, like best CTO friend. And I was like, hey, do you want to do this? He's like, yeah. yeah, let's do it. And so we did it. And then I did a couple more episodes, and within 6 months, the show got popular in the small niche that is technical leaders. And then I got a call from like the CTO of Microsoft. He's like, hey, I listened to your show when I commute to work. He's like, can I come on? And I was like, yeah, of course you can come on. I did a dance. There was a dance that happened. I was so excited.
So who was the most influential guest that you've had on your show? What is, so let's do that question first.
Yeah. Influential. I'd say the most,
because the Microsoft CTO,
one, yeah.
that's a, yeah, I would do a dance for that too.
Yeah. I would say the creator of the internet.
Al Gore?
Sir Tim Berners-Lee.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
we've been joking about Al Gore all day.
Oh,
so
yeah?
I just I'm glad to laugh. Hopefully you guys can hear it. But
now he did. Al Gore should be very much like respected in the sense
of
that
course.
he handled the. This is a non-political thing. He handled the policy side of things to make the internet accessible. So there's actually this thing called OSI, and it's these several layers of the internet, right? You have everything from the fiber to the computer, and you got all these layers.
You can nerd out as much as you can. I may ask questions, but what are the 7 layers of the internet?
Well, I don't want to go through all 7, but I will tell you what Tim Berners-Lee did, the interview I had. He invented the World Wide Web. So when you type www, and he did that because he was a scientist at CERN, which is a science research center. And he wanted to make the research papers accessible remotely and to everybody in the network. And so he created the World Wide Web in order to do that. And that became the thing we know today.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from that interview?
I learned that and this was 4 years ago, so 4 or 5 years ago, but he accurately predicted in that interview the way that we are currently headed today as far as how we consume the internet. And specifically, like the specific example is right now, let's say your online banking account, let's just say it's Chase or whatever. They have a database that tells you how much money you have. And like you just have to go to them and get access to that database. In the future, the data will sit, like the data store will sit with me and we'll give them permission to write to it. And so it gets a little complicated based off of specific use cases. But at the end of the day, I believe that the companies like Facebook and Netflix and all these big companies, they're going to turn more into, like right now, they're the data store and the interface in which we access. I believe in the future, we're going to own the interface we access and just leverage them as a data store.
Okay.
Like right now you have to log into Netflix, right?
Yep.
So you got the Netflix interface, but then it's also Netflix data that's being pumped into that interface.
Yep,
you don't have a choice of interface really.
Yes.
In the future, I think
it's going to be fully customizable on that interface. You're coming to them. Okay.
The interface is generated, like you can generate and own your interface.
Yep.
And then you're just using them.
And that's why blockchain technology is so important. Probably, right? Because of that interface and the transactions that can be tracked.
I don't think those are connected in that specific example of like the interface, but in banking, the immutable ledger is a very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that in mind, where do you see the consumers really taking place with the customization of an interface? Is it going to be over the next 3 years? Is it the next 5 years?
It's already happening right now. Mm-hmm. Through APIs. But I think the interesting thing, the thing I'm personally excited for is like right now, the Facebooks and the X's and the Instagram, they all have algorithms and they're trying to guess and predict what you want and learn from you and all of that. I think that is going to go back to the people. I think I will be able to tell it what I want and it just uses it as a data store. Like right now it serves me up stuff that it thinks I want. I think in the future that we're going to have that system on our side and it's just going to go grab that. Like we're going to be dictating to the algorithm what we want and not Instagram telling the algorithm what we want. I know that's a little bit heady, but that's what I think is going to happen. So,
because I'm an advertiser, I'm a marketer.
Yeah.
Where can advertisers and marketers have placement in that type of a realm of technology?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And that's one of the reasons why I think it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
I think we have to figure out, I did this whole series a few years ago called My Body, My Pixels, where it's like, cause tapping into that because here you're seeing the screen of my phone, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Apple and stuff, like I own this phone outright, right? No payment plans or anything. I own it, but they own like the processing and they own the pixel generation. Yes. And it's like, but at some point these pixels through light travel and hit my retinas. Mm-hmm. At what point do I own
that data?
The data?
Yep.
Do I own it from the screen? Like, so how can I, because right now we're so controlled by our screens. They choose through advertisers what we get to see on our screens. And I don't like that. So if you talk to my wife, you'll find that I pay for premium everything. Like I have a no ads rule for our children. So any application that they want, like a game or something on their tablet or educational, the rule is there's no ads. I don't let advertisers into my house.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, how can parents prevent advertisers into the house? Like how do you have systems in place to prevent that? So one way that I do it is I only have a 16-month-old, so I'm still trying to figure this out. He only gets 30 minutes of screen time a week. Mm-hmm. That's all, and it's a show that I watch. It goes through my vetting process. I'm watching it with him. It's Winnie the Pooh from the 90s. That's all we watch. And that's all he's probably going to watch. Mm-hmm. So how do you build systems to prevent that to get in front of your children?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not perfect at it.
No one is. Yeah,
but what we do is we do a couple things. We let them, any apps that go onto their devices have to be approved by us.
Of course.
So that's an easy thing Apple lets you do. We're definitely in a lot of different parent groups to find out like if shows, because you'll have a show and like the first 4 episodes will be completely normal.
Yeah.
And then episode 6.
7,
6 or 7 is just chaotic. And so for that aspect, we've just been involved in our community and parental community, and we're Christians, so we're involved in our church as well. And so when we hear that shows are doing certain things or see screen grabs of them or like a game that they're playing, we see something bad happening in the game or some clip goes viral about that game's just gone now. So we've made it very clear to the kids, like core first principles is it is not their tablet. It is my tablet that I'm letting them use. Okay. Yep. So we have different color cases on it so that they, have the ones that they use, but we make it very clear to them that it's not their tablet. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, everything's locked down from a security perspective. They don't have browsers. They can FaceTime grandma and grandpa and uncles and aunts and cousins and things like that we add specifically in there. And then we, of course, watch over their shoulder. I think in the future, there's going to be an AI that I can say, hey, watch everything my kid does. And if it goes against my value system, notify me.
So Covenant Eyes, you may have heard of them in the space that you're in. They do that for pornography.
Okay.
And tracking that. But they have a technology right now with some of their AIs where it can do the entire phone. And so it can track images from Twitter or from Instagram and things like that. I don't know where they're going in the future, but they're a good resource in that realm, but they may have some other technology things in the future where it's like, hey, the parental control is so strict, it sends a red flag notification to you. They may already have that system built because they started as an accountability software. So I guarantee you it's already in the works or somebody has been working on that.
Yeah, there's Bark too, who's working on it with a custom operating system. And I almost invested into the projects. My buddy Derek that I mentioned earlier, I called him. He's like he's a brilliant engineer. And we did a 3-month project where we went through the scope of what it could be and what exists out there and all of that and how much it would cost to build something. I determined that the technology still needed a couple more years before it became really efficient because like the battery usage of me monitoring your screen 24/7, I think we need some advancements there. And this was about 1.5 years ago. So we could be getting close to like a real good moment. But Bark, I think, really did well with just building the phone and then putting a single operating system on it that they built code down in the lower level of the operating system, which made it more battery efficient. That being said, it's restricted. It's just an Android phone. So you can't like roll it out in mass and people really like their Apple devices.
Once you're in the Apple infrastructure, you're pretty much there for life.
I love it too.
I do too. Yeah. And I've been using Apple for a long time.
And we actually did find a way to hijack the accessibility, like for blind people and things like that. Yep. The accessibility engine to do it. We just didn't, if let's say you put $200,000 into this thing, right? It's like, okay, well, what if Apple just decides when you go to do it that it's like,
they close it off.
We just don't like the way you're using the accessibility features. You're kind of misusing them. Yep. And so, because they do have some parental control features. So we didn't want to make that gamble. And so we just didn't do it. We're just like, let the market do it.
So with all of your travels in mind, and you traveled across the United States, did you hit all 48 of the mainland, or did you choose select areas?
Yeah, we chose select areas. It was very driven by my wife. I was like, I'll drive. You tell me like where you want to go, and the points you want to hit. We went and visited. Like we had a cluster of employees in like Utah, so we went there and had a team dinner. Then we went to the Grand Tetons, met with some business partners, and we had some fun while we did it. And then whenever I had a podcast that was that needed me while I was on the road, I would just pull over and get a hotel.
Okay.
And just run inside, do the podcast, and then hotel, leave, and then pack up and leave.
Yeah, that's. So why the decision to come to Tennessee?
So I'm a nerd. So I took some weather maps and laid them over each other, and then found this like oval shaped area in the country that I would want to live based off of seasons. And then we did a Zillow search within that oval, and we found this. And then when you're searching for properties, there's like a million different options, and it's like we were drowning in ideas. And so I said, okay, Michelle, I told my wife, I was like, just make a bullet point list of your absolute hard requirements. And then I took that list, put it into Zillow, and I found this place. We were in North Carolina at a campground. I found this place in Clarksville, Tennessee that checked every single box. And so I said, all right. So I called them, and then I said, I want to buy the property. And they're like, okay, you can buy the property. And I was like, do you want to see it first? I was like, nah, I'm good. They're like, okay, well, you need to see it first. And I said, okay. And so I drove 5 hours, saw the property in person, shook hands with it, and within like 45 days we were living in the house. We all moved into one master bedroom upstairs. Okay. It's like a guest room now, but we moved into that, and then we had contractors come in and renovate the rest of the house.
Okay.
So we were living in this small little space. We were already in the RV, so it made sense.
So walk me through that weather map a little bit more. So the seasons. You're the first person that I've met that has made a weather map and made their moving decision to Tennessee. Most people are like, well, it's a no income tax state.
That was part of it. That was
the workforce availability here, like the jobs. So walk me through the weather map. Like, okay, you had these layers. This area is known for tornadoes. We're heavily known for tornadoes. We just celebrated the 5-year anniversary. Not celebrate. We remembered the 5-year anniversary. That was a terrible transition. Mark that.
Explore Nashville.
We celebrated that one. Oh gosh, that clip can go viral. We remembered the 5-year anniversary of the March 3rd tornado that ripped through Nashville in Middle Tennessee. So,
okay.
Walk through that weather map. Was it like, okay, this is the elevation we're looking for in the amount of rain? Like, go through the whole weather map.
It was fairly simple. It was average temperature. I'm pretty sure that's the one. This was a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure it was, and I'd previously built a weather application. Okay. So I had like data, and I had experience with it and all of that. So it wasn't like a huge lift to just use my old tools. But it was basically, it was trying to find things with seasons that weren't too extreme. It's like I wanted snow, but like 4 days a year.
Yeah.
I wanted a fall and a winter, and like we want to see leaves change. And so, I think it was average temperature based off of the seasons.
Okay. Over a 15-year period, over a 20-year period, or over the last 100-year period?
It was whatever Weather Underground data had. So that's like it's like a subsidiary of the Weather Channel, like a more modern version of the Weather Channel. They're called Weather. I think it's Weather Underground, and they just have a data set. And then I was looking at, like I said, I wanted, winters to be like this. I wanted summers to be like this. I wanted falls, and it showed me similar areas to what I wanted. And that's how it turns out it was just this like oval thing in the middle of the country. And I didn't want to like live like in Alabama or some other places, but like, so we wanted to live, relatively close to a popular airport because I do travel a little bit.
And BNA is a great choice.
BNA is a great airport, yeah.
With the local food options in that airport and how local focused they are. It's a great airport. Okay, so do you have any regrets coming to Tennessee? And what's been like really good positive experiences for you?
Any regrets? I would say if we did it over again, I'd probably live in Mount Juliet or Franklin.
Both great markets.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're just like the hour drive in is just a little bit too far. I wish it was like 30 minutes. But we're very happy with we have like 7 acres. It's beautiful. I have a separate like building studio on my property.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I can just walk. It's like about a football field away from the main house. Walk over there and I've got half of it's a gym, half of it's a studio, and I get to do all my stuff. It's amazing because through whatever program with Cumberland Connect, we have like gigabit fiber. It's like great.
Yeah, and you're in the back country too.
Yeah, and we're in the back country, yeah.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize is how much that investment throughout the state of Tennessee has happened.
Yeah.
Where you can be in the back country and you get speeds faster than Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. That's the case. And then Starlink's kind of crushed all of that now. So I've got a Starlink too as my backup. But yeah, there's no reason to dig all the wires when you have Starlink.
Yeah. What's been like the most positive experience for you moving to Tennessee?
Being outside with the kids. So in Florida, we lived in a cookie cutter neighborhood. So it's 20 feet from the garage door to the street. And that's scary with little kids. If you leave the garage door open and they go look for mommy or daddy who's outside or something, they can end up in the street real quick. But we don't see neighbors anymore, which is great. Like they're on the other side of the tree lines, but like just to wake up and look out your porch and just to see nature has been probably the greatest improvement to my quality of life. I don't think people understand how much that improves your life. Because we actually just 2 weeks ago, we went looking for houses that were closer here into Nashville because I'm driving down for comedy so much. And I was just like, it's not for us. We like being out and having a couple acres. It doesn't have to be 7, but like 1 or 2 acres at least so that we have that feeling of space. That helps a lot with like anxiety and stress and quality of life. Especially I'm so tech focused.
I have 2 acres in the middle of Donaldson.
Okay.
And I'm extraordinarily grateful for the 2 acres I have because at one point the state park shut down because of that thing. And I'm able just to play in my yard.
Yeah.
And build things in my yard and just have fun. So it's so good for your mental health. So you said that you drive to Nashville for comedy.
Yep.
You are getting into the comedy space. You perform at the world famous Zanies. What is the drive and inspiration to get into comedy? Yeah.
So about 7 years ago, that when I was, it's maybe 10 years ago now, but a while ago when all that was happening with my mom passing away and my wife getting pregnant and the book and like the company and everything like that, in all of that time period, my wife had been telling me, she's like, hey, you should go take like a comedy class, see if you're interested in that because you're funny. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I did.
Was it more of an improv class or was it?
It was a stand-up comedy at McCurdy's in Sarasota, Florida.
Yep.
And it was this comedy school. And I went for a couple weeks and then I had a showcase and it went super well. And then all that stuff happened. And so I said, okay, I was at a fork in the road moment. So new baby coming, losing mom, this other stuff happening. I was like, I'm going to go the safe route. What I thought the responsible move was. And it worked out very well. I'm very, very happy that it's worked out so well. And then, things got good, things got great, financially and all of that. And then I just started getting like real depressed. I'd built the company to where like I had enough people that were, doing stuff for me that I didn't have to really do much at all other than, hire and fire the president of the company essentially. And I just had a bunch of time on my hands and I was like starting to get depressed, and then business started to go down because I wasn't interested, and you got to pay attention to it as a business owner.
You have to be.
Yeah. And so I was talking with my wife and she's like, hey, you should go take the path you didn't take. And I said, okay, like, can we do that financially? We'll have to downsize a little bit, like, manage risk, all of that. But I said, okay, cool. So that was about a year and a half ago. And then I started going out like 2 or 3 times, 4 times. I took a class over at Third Coast Comedy. And I was like, yeah, I do like this. But I realized...
How was that experience with Third Coast?
It was good.
The class.
Yeah. Rhonda Sweat was my person that walked me through it.
What like if somebody were to take that class, what can they expect?
Yeah, I took the stand-up one, which is going to be helping you understand how to get your stories that you want to tell into stand-up structure so that people can laugh at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that impacted your storytelling in comedy?
Yeah, storytelling and comedy is like its own dialect of a storytelling language. And so learning how to speak in that dialect is, something I'm still learning how to do, but going and having somebody who's already getting paid to do it on a weekly basis, just give you the breakdown and help you go through that process was incredibly helpful.
What are some of the inspirations behind your jokes? Because I have not heard you do a comedy. What are they called, Joe? A set?
You haven't heard me do a set.
Yeah, I have not heard you do a set. I don't listen to much comedy.
No, that's okay.
My comedy is like old school British satire humor. And then I like dark humor.
Okay.
But I don't listen to sets like just for fun. I would rather go learn about business and other things. So walk me through the inspiration for your jokes.
Yeah, it's mostly about my life. So it's mostly about my relationship with my wife and my kids.
Okay, so with that in mind, and then you right before we started recording, you said you had your first paid gig.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
It was amazing. It was at Joker's Comedy over here in Clarksville. And because Clarksville just got a comedy.
Clarksville, I was talking to somebody about this a couple weeks ago at the Blizzard event, which is a Tennessee tourism hospitality thing.
Not video games.
Yeah. I wish it was video games because they probably would have been more inspirational. But they were talking about Clarksville and how they're selling out the arena for comedy events in Clarksville. And I said, well, we're associated with the Zanies guys and Andrew and his team. And let's try making Clarksville a destination for comedy.
Yeah.
And I think that could be on the horizon.
I just went to a show there. Jeff Dunham crushed it.
They said it. They said it was
amazing.
They said it was the highest producing event that Clarksville has ever hosted.
Really?
From a financial
Dunham's
standpoint.
event like 2 weeks ago. My wife got me tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, I did see Bert, but I didn't go see him. I saw him coming through.
Like it's making more money. That event made more money from an economic standpoint than anything else Clarksville has ever done. Yeah. That's what I've heard.
Well, it makes sense.
I don't know how accurate that is.
The stadium was packed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your first paid experience. Were you nervous? Were you excited?
Yeah. So luckily, because of the podcast and the scope and scale of it and the speaking events that have come along with it over the past 10 years, there's always some nervousness or excitement. I'd say it's really hard to tell the difference between them. Just the feeling of I'm going to speak in front of 1,000 people or 3,000, whatever it is. So that is always present, and I think that's useful. That I've done, maybe hundreds of these talks in front of thousands of people plus, and that doesn't seem to go away. I mean, you get better at like managing it, and like when you first start, you're nervous weeks before, and then you're going crazy day of, but then you get to the point where it's just like you get your normal jitters like before you go on stage. You're still eating lunch, you're not worrying about that. So because of all of that experience in the past 10 years, because before I was very introverted and I didn't have I had zero experience talking with large or with groups of people really. So I think all that experience from the podcast has really helped as far as my nervousness going on stage. That being said, I mean, it's that same feeling still happens before you go on. For me, at least still.
How long was your that set? Was it like a 10-minute set, 15-minute set?
So I've been doing some 10, 12-minute sets at Joker's opening for the headliner, but not paid. My first paid gig was this past weekend, and it was the hosting spot. So it's just like a quick 5 minutes at the top, and then introducing the comics and house rules, all of that.
Oh, that's awesome. What, where do you see comedy going over the next few years? Do you feel, because of the current administration, we can actually tell jokes again?
I would say the tension in the club is more relaxed. And that's just completely subjective, just me and my gut feel. Like, I feel like everyone's kind of relaxing a little bit. Like, we can make more jokes and it's okay, because we definitely were on this train of like, you can't say things, and comedy's always been the place where you can go to say like,
if you look at the history of comedy with jesters and kings,
yeah,
they were the only people that can actually criticize a king,
and that's an important feature of society.
Yes,
right,
because if we don't have that, then we're in a communist state, and it's not good.
I'm a huge fan of free speech. So
and all comedians should be. Yes. Yeah.
Probably more so. I actually know this from the interviews I've done, but I am like a diehard free speech person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you have to be able to combat bad ideas.
Well, just look at what's happening in England.
Oh, that's crazy.
Over people sending a tweet or a Facebook post.
I know.
That is evil. What you guys are doing is evil.
100%. So they've got their deep states just a little bit more effective right now.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get them out of there.
And we can get deep into that topic. But okay, so where's comedy going over the next 2 to 3 years?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm pretty new to being in here. I just know that this is the path I want to take. I came up with the philosophy that if I can get paid to make people laugh, then I have hacked life.
Yeah,
it's video game cheat code.
Yeah.
I got paid to make people laugh. And I'm okay with the absurdity of the idea that I can say, I'm 3 or 4 months into comedy and I believe I'm going to sell out stadiums.
That's awesome, man. Well, hopefully we're getting you on your start, man.
Yeah. And that's mostly because it was when I started my show 10 years ago, everybody told me I was crazy. Parents pulled me aside. People pulled me aside. Like, you've got a good thing as a software engineer. You've got a good thing. Like, don't do this.
Well, even if you rewind 10 years prior to that, everyone's like, oh, software. Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. I mean, I dropped out of high school to do software.
That's cool.
I was making more money freelancing, and this school was this massive obstruction for me. I was staying up all night making money freelancing online, building software for people, and then I'd sleep all day in class, and they would just annoy me. They would wake me up. They'd send me to the principal's office. Finally, I'm like, when I this is going to sound really bad, but I remember the day I asked my math teacher how much money he made.
And was it $43,000?
Yeah, it was something like that. And I was like, oh, I made more money than you this year. Why am I sitting in this class, like listening to you? And I got up and I walked out that day. And yeah, it's a little douchey, but I was very polite the way I did it. I didn't say that to him. I just, in my head, I was like, hey, just curious, like how much money you make? And we were like one-on-one, and he told me, because I was like career expanding and everything like that. And I was like, all right, look, I'm making more money than this guy. And all the teachers, that was the first time I found out how much teachers made.
How old were you? 16, 15?
Yeah, it was the second week of 11th grade.
Okay.
I remember it very specifically. Yeah.
Give or take? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, 16 or 17.
What was, what happened after you dropped out of school?
Well, so, that's kind of like a shock way to say it, but I just went to the principal's office, and he had like lived a couple streets down from me.
Yeah.
So he kind of knew like a little bit about my interest in that. And I just shared with him how I was feeling, and that I don't think it's a good use of my time. And I feel like I'm interrupting the other kids because they're trying to learn and I'm trying to sleep, and I want to do this with my life. And he said, well, can you go, get full-time work without having a high school degree or a degree in all of this stuff. And I said, yeah, let me check. So I emailed some other companies that were in the city and stuff that were hiring engineers. And they said, we don't care about your education. We care about your ability to produce code.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So then that validated it. So I took it back to him and he's like, what I want you to do is I want you to do the homeschool early exit program. Basically, you can just challenge this test. It's the same test for the GED, at least at the time in Florida. Same test is how you get out of it. You get your diploma. It doesn't say GED, it says diploma. So I challenged the test. It was absurdly easy, like 6th grade level easy of a multiple choice test. Got my diploma and then started building my software company.
Yeah, we kind of have similar backgrounds. I didn't drop out. I just hated school.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was getting anything from it, and I didn't. By 9th grade, I took all these senior level classes in ethics and business and stuff, and I'm like, I literally, my 11th and 12th grade year, I had 2 classes.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I went to school. Is to get that degree. But my guidance counselor, Mr. Tagodaiga, I think it was his name, he took really good care of me. And so he's like, hey, just finish this out. And I ended up going to college and going that route. And that's when I actually applied myself. And I was like, oh, wow, I could easily ace everything in school. I didn't like school. And I still don't like school. And my
brother, my older brother and my younger sister, they love school.
Okay.
He became a doctor. She's a scientist. And, they've always like ragged me about school. Yeah.
Hey, you've built companies and you've sold companies, and
I'll call my brother sometimes in the middle of the day. I'd be like, "Hey, can you hang out?" Oh no, you can't. You're seeing patients. Yeah, that's right. All
right. you're living the lifestyle of freedom.
Yeah, you
get to choose your schedule, and that's the most important thing for me is controlling my schedule, because my time is the most valuable asset that I have.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm giving that to my family and to my employees and to building the thing that we're building. And that's what you're able to do.
Yes.
With what you do. Okay. So we talked about comedy, but the topic that kept me up last night a little bit is AI. And talking to you about AI, because you're talking to CTOs all the time about AI, but I wanted to talk about AI in the sense of how can destinations like Nashville incorporate AI into their back-end systems to make a better product, a deliverable product as a city, as a metropolitan, than the conflict of like, okay, we're not a Chinese spy state, but like, how can they incorporate, because we're talking to cities all the time, how can they incorporate these systems to deliver a better product?
Well, I don't know a ton about that type of technology, but I know core principles. And core principles are going to be that you're going to want to be really good about choosing your vendors. And a lot of these vendors are competing against each other to bring these AI features. So I think it'll be less about necessarily adopting wildly new technologies as far as a P&L budget line item for the city, and more about them having good conversations with their existing vendors about how are you using the latest technology to make our engagement with you better, and what are the outcomes. So whenever you get into spending money in software and everything, that's all secondary to the outcome. Are we trying to get traffic tickets paid faster? Are we trying to get, deed issuance happening smoother? Are we trying, what is the thing you're trying to do divorced from technology? What's the KPI, the key performance indicator? Well, what's that thing that you're trying to do? And then back yourself into the technology. Well, how are we currently doing it? Who's the vendor there, right? Because you're looking for a win, right? So let's use the traffic ticket thing. You got this question about AI. All right, you need your KPI is traffic tickets, the payment speed. Well, let's talk to that vendor of the software that's involved in that. And there might be 2 or 3 softwares, and ask them how they're leveraging AI. Are they doing it? Are they looking at their competitors? Do I need a consultant to come look at this? So outcome-based approaches are the thing that I have drilled into my mind as an entrepreneur. Everything is outcome based. And it's so amazing how you'll go inside big companies or work with big companies and people are literally like floating along with vibes.
Yeah, they're floating very hard with a lot of people that we've talked to. So I have a case study that I think would be interesting that you may want to hear. So we were in Lexington, Tennessee, which is a small town 2 hours west of Nashville. The town square and the county mayor is investing heavily to get tourism dollars into the county.
Okay.
So the way that they make money is people staying overnight. That's how some of these destination marketing organizations, they make their money, is from people
EDCs,
staying the night.
yeah.
Yes. And so what was interesting is we were talking to him. This was like 2 or 3 years ago. We were talking to him and he said, hey, Starbucks is coming to our town of 9,000 people. And so we said, how did you get Starbucks to even approach you guys? They said we invested in technology that tracks the weight sensors at each crosswalk of how much pedestrian traffic is happening in that area. And then they installed cameras in that intersection to track the cars. So it's probably an AI technology that's tracking car placement and weight of sensors at crosswalks, which is an incredible technology to have access to say, okay, we know with confidence that how many foot traffic people are crossing this street. That's how Starbucks made their decision, is because of that data. So is there ways that cities can incorporate more of that data that you're seeing in the AI space?
Oh, well, I mean,
to really dive deeper into that data.
I'd say, you could probably use the cameras to check the dilation of their pupils to see how caffeinated they are.
You can see everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could use that caffeination data.
But there's this ethical point of,
well, this is an easy thing. You let the people vote on it.
Yep.
Welcome to America.
Yep.
If you want to do something like that, like, hey, we're going to put weight sensors in traffic so that we can attract more businesses here, put it up for a vote. No,
that's a great way around it.
I'm always going to lean towards that. That's how it should. Voting works super, super well. Democracy, unfettered democracy works super well on the local and state levels. Yeah.
We can get into some topics there, but so with AI comes the amount of power that's going to be driving the back-end systems.
Yep.
So Tennessee has positioned itself as one of the top states to invest in nuclear power.
Yes, they are. Nano-nuclear just came through over there. What's the big nuclear?
Oak Ridge. Yeah.
So Nano's just got there. A couple others have gotten there too.
Yeah, I think there's 3 other companies that are moving towards Oak Ridge. So what are your thoughts on the state of Tennessee and the positioning of where we are with nuclear power and where that's going?
Well, I think it's exciting to see us make it. So I'm an investor in Nano-nuclear. They're a publicly traded nuclear company that just built an office in Oak Ridge, and they've got some companies that they're like competitive and friendly with. And I've been following a couple of them, and they just recently, over the past, let's say 6 months, have had a slew of press releases with different elected officials stating that they're intentionally trying to bring this industry here. I think that's great. I think the worst thing is like doing nothing, being known for nothing. Energy is huge. We're building a Bitcoin mine right now in Bulls Gap, Tennessee, which is like 2 hours north of Knoxville. It's an 8.3 megawatt facility.
Wow. That
we're using the flared gas. So you ever see the gas flares?
Yep.
2 of my buddies were in Bitcoin and in oil and gas, and they were like, "Hey, we see that they're just burning the energy off because it's too
much energy."
And then the cost to bottle it and ship it and sell it is break even. So why go through the effort?
So I grew up in New York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And so in natural gas, they had to do all that burning.
Yeah. Yep. So
all the time.
It.
So you would be in these back mountains of Pennsylvania. You're like, why is there a flame?
Yeah.
Just in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
So we started talking to these guys, and we're like, "Hey, can we bring generators out there, hook it up to the ethane pipe, and then bring compute out there, like AI compute or Bitcoin mining compute? Doesn't matter. We just look at the economics of like what would be best to compute, data storage, AI training, or Bitcoin. And then we'll bring the computers out there on site. And so that way we have, essentially a zero cost energy source other than the turbines and all of that and the generators. And so we struck our first deal. It's a $25 million deal, and we're about $5 million into it right now. So we broke ground in November.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
November, and have you already started mining the Bitcoin then?
No, so we're still raising the money. So the site
okay.
prep is there, infrastructure's going in, and as we're raising the money, we're building at the same time. Like generators have already been ordered and all of that.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think, with all of that in mind, Tennessee will be the number one state for investment into nuclear?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Where was the first nuclear reactor built? So I'm also connected with ALO Atomics, who's over in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, big energy state.
Big,
Independent grid,
the oil and
ERCOT, all that. Yeah. So I think they're going to be pushing, but for Tennessee, given the talent, we've got the advantage of the nuclear talent there, right? So I'm thinking that I'm real excited to be here in Tennessee.
I just thinking through my friend list, I'm like, oh, I actually know a nuclear engineer.
Yeah.
I'm just associated with him. And so I don't know if a lot of people around the country can be like, hey, I just know a nuclear engineer. So we'll see the positioning on it.
I'm not a good person for normal.
No, it's a-okay.
It's like if you want to resurrect a woolly mammoth from DNA you found in the permafrost, like I got a girl for that.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, that was one of the cooler interviews I did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, did you watch Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
She's like, it's going to be different this time.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
sure. Did you hear about the new Jurassic Park thing in Taiwan that they're building?
No.
Look it up. Yeah,
right.
there's some stuff. You're like, should we cross this line?
Yeah, but they're doing it, man. They're funded deep with hundreds of people actively resurrecting this woolly mammoth.
Well, the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
That was so the Nashville Predators, how they got their logo.
Yeah.
Is they found a saber-toothed tiger when they were breaking ground for the UBS building in downtown.
Oh, nice.
And so they used to be here. Like they would hunt here and be in this area. So
they liked the weather.
What was that?
They liked the weather.
Oh yeah, same thing. That's why you moved here, is because of the weather. All right, so you're on that Dixon Clarksville line.
Yeah.
What are some local places that you and your family enjoy? Like from attractions, from eating?
Yeah, so everything's in Clarksville. So we drive 20 minutes to a grocery store. But yeah, the places we like eating and going. Oh man, this new place called, it's new for us. Sorry. It's been there for a while. It's called Clyde's. We just went there last week. It's like attached to a golf course or something, but that was really good. We like going to Joker's Comedy House. That's a great place. And they'll even have like kids magic shows and stuff sometimes there too. And then we go to Living Hope Church. We spend a lot of time there off of exit 11. Pastor Derek's great. And then where else do we spend time? There's a couple places that my wife and daughter go. I don't know, but they like to go get some sweets at some places.
Probably Golly G's, the ice cream shop.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, we know Golly G's. And then there's a cool donut place too up there that does some interesting donuts. I am not great with the names of the businesses, but I am great with remembering how good the food was.
Yeah, have you guys been to the Wonder Center? So over in Dixon, Tennessee, there's the Wonder Center. Have you guys been to the Wonder Center?
No, I don't know what that is.
So it's a creation museum.
Okay.
So it covers the 7 days of creation through the Christian lens of science.
Oh, cool.
So it's a really cool attraction that's found near downtown Dixon. It was actually, and they have a planetarium on site too. And they have Tesla
like a
coils.
Giant dome ball glass thing?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, we've driven by that.
Yeah, you should definitely bring your family to it. It's
worth
fun
going?
attraction. Yeah, and then they do dinner theater. So downstairs they have a dinner theater. They have a lot going on for them. A broadcast studio, TV studio.
Did they really?
Yeah. It's a huge facility. It's 100,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
And just really a cool coffee shop. But it looks through, I think, 7 or 8 different lenses of science through the Christian lens. So
nice.
it's a really cool place. Yeah, and David Reeves is there too. He is a TV host on the Genesis channel, I believe. So it's a cool facility. What Nashville over the last 5 years has made major moves in the tech space, especially healthcare tech. Where do you see, and you probably have a lot of friends that are CTOs that are like, hey, Nashville has the workforce, we're going to move our company here. Where do you see Nashville over the next 5 years in the technology space?
Well, I think it'll be about the same. So, I mean,
Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, I think we're going to...
Is it going to be the talent is going to be about the same? Are the universities investing in the infrastructure to make it more of a tech hub? So break that down.
Yeah. So I think that it's got so much momentum as healthcare and healthcare technology. And so that's like one chain of momentum. The other chain of momentum is the culture, the state tax, and just the general culture. So I think those two drivers are going to pull people in. Who's just relocating their headquarters here? I just heard it like 2 days ago. Some big company is moving out of California and coming over here.
In-N-Out.
In-N-Out.
Yeah, the burger place, In-N-Out. I talked to a company this morning. They're moving everything from California to here, but they're a steel manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of companies moving from California here. Yeah. In-N-Out's the biggest one.
Yeah. So and by the way, I don't spend a ton of time in the healthcare tech space, so I don't have a lot of like strong opinions on it.
Well, it's not just the healthcare technology. It's all the other tech companies that are coming here.
We've got some good music companies.
So there's music tech companies here.
Do you know Trevor?
Trevor with what is that a company?
Trevor Hensley with what's the name of it? Sorry, Trevor. He's got one of the more popular music like licensing type application softwares.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's a lot of stuff in the film and entertainment world that's coming here. More like big sound studios with like these huge, massive
cool
AI systems and stuff coming here. So it's not just healthcare tech. There's a lot of tech startups here, like Yoshi, which is a tech startup that basically does oil delivery and gas delivery to your house.
Oh, cool.
But it's all through a technology. And so like they're more of a tech company than they are a delivery company. So just a lot of really cool startups that have started here out of Nashville.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. Have you been to the EC or the Entrepreneur Center downtown?
No.
Probably because of your background in technology, that'd be a really good place for you to get involved with.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're great to work with in certain situations.
Okay.
But they have Innovation Nashville, which is a sector of what they do, and they offer entrepreneurs like training and tech startups and stuff. So it's this really community focus driven facility that's trying to increase funding and help startup companies really have a stronghold here in Nashville.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So Joel, where could people give a listen to your podcast and give you a follow?
Yeah, I'd say follow me at Mr. Joel Beasley on Instagram. That's where I'm probably most active.
Have you done any of your comedy stuff on your Instagram?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I do have an at Modern CTO Instagram handle, but right now I'm pushing everyone towards like me as a person.
Yeah.
Because that's just like the show, and the show might not always be me.
Yeah.
I might end up like there's been times over the course of 10 years where I've hired hosts to do a couple 10, 20, 30 episodes to see how the audience would react. But yeah,
how did the audience react in those moments?
they reacted fine.
Okay.
We didn't see it. We noticed that the biggest drivers were audio, video quality, and topic selection. Host is important, but it's not the biggest driver of why people listen for the full interview. People want knowledge, and they get sold on it from the title. Then they click into it, and then you're delivering on that title, and you're delivering it, and it sounds good in your car, or it looks good on YouTube or wherever you're consuming it. Then they'll continue to consume it to figure out the information.
Yeah. All right. So your personal Instagram, and then give a shout out to one small business that you would like to support. Local business.
Golly Geez, is that a local place?
Golly Geez is local. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joey, he owns that.
We'd like to apologize to Golly Geez because my 5-year-old son, when we went there, he was sitting across from this other 5-year-old girl who he thought was cute, and he just walked up and kissed her. So go down to Golly Geez and get your kisses on. So that was a learning moment. That was a teaching moment. That was like, hey. And he did it again at the zoo. So watch out for
the Nashville
Lachlan.
Zoo.
If you see my 5-year-old son, watch out. He might kiss you. Yeah.
So hide your daughters.
Hide your daughters. Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Golly Geez is an award-winning ice cream shop. So, Joey, if you're watching this, you have some great ice cream.
Yes.
Well, Joel, thank you so much for coming on the Explore Nash podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.